Hi, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and today we're going to take a look at the Sky Tree. Now, I'm really proud of this because this is our first print product from Sharp Mountain Games, the first one you can actually get a physical copy of. And I was the author and the illustrator. So what I want to do today is just preview the book. But let me just say at the beginning here, this is not a hard sell. I just want to show you what's inside the book. If you're interested, obviously I'll have the links below in the description. But if you're not, I hope you'll still stick around because you might get a few ideas that you could use or adapt for your own game. So let's take a look at the physical product. It's a softcover book. It's 36 pages, although the last two are the OGL and they put a blank page in just for printing. So it's really 34 pages, softcover, and it's $6.99. You can get it at Lulu, you can get it at Amazon, and you can get it at Drive-Thru. And also at Drive-Thru, you can get a digital edition if you want, and it's a little cheaper. You know, you can just buy the PDF there if you like. So let's take a look at the front cover, which you'll also see on the inside. So it's full cover, and you can see we have a warrior fighting. It's actually a rock, a giant eagle. And on the back, then we have a painting of the Sky Tree itself. Now, the idea for the Sky Tree, really, I have to give credit to Larry Niven's The Integral Trees, which was a science fiction novel I've read. And he had this idea that there's like this smoke ring in space around a star, and the trees sort of float around up there. Well, I had the idea of, what if there was a floating tree that kind of floated over a fantasy world, almost like the Flying Dutchman? And we'll talk about what's on that tree and why that tree is important and how you can link it into your adventures. So let's take a look inside the book. So here we are inside the book, and you can see the Sky Tree, and that's the same image that's on the cover there. And we get a table of contents. Now, this fella is Sunday Roamer, who's going to be very important to the story in just a minute or so. So we get a little introduction, and I should say this is mostly designed for OSR games, and it's about 7th level. You could play it a little lower or a little higher if you like. However, it does use or gives you both descending and ascending armor class. So I think you could easily adapt this to a later edition if you like, if you play 5th edition or 3.5 or Pathfinder. Now, the stat blocks are going to be a little bit simpler, but it easily could be adapted. So what we get here is an area map, and you're traveling to the town of Harveston, which is a halfling or a hobbit village. And then there's of course, a roadside encounter along the way that sort of sets the tone for the adventure. And we have these, really they're kind of like an axe beak, a hatchet, and the creature that's controlling them. And we'll see that in a minute or so. And then here's a battle map that you can either print out or you can blow up. Now, Harveston, you get a few NPCs, and the main NPC is Sunday Roamer, who's kind of a retired adventurer, sort of a Bilbo Baggins type. And he has a telescope. And he's very worried because he's spotted the Sky Tree, and it seems like it's going to crash right into his town. And he can't quite convince the townsfolk that this is serious. So he asks the adventurers, hires them. He does offer a reward. He has a friend, Barnabas, who's a retired wizard. And they will teleport the party to the Sky Tree so they can find out what's going on and hopefully prevent it from crashing. So they arrive at the tree, and I'm not going to go through it plot point by plot point. I don't want to spoil it totally. But there are a lot of creatures who you might expect to live on a Sky Tree. Like there's a giant squirrel up there. There's some people to do some role-playing with. So it's not just, a dungeon with rooms of monsters. Here's kind of an area where they arrive, and there's a branch, and the botanicals. So the botanicals are kind of living plant-like creatures, and they live there. And if you talk nicely to them and make friends with them, they can give you some information. And there are some giant eagles, the rocks that are shown on the cover, that are nesting up there. And I think that's not unreasonable that giant birds would nest on the tree. You can see we have a riddle statue, because eventually you do go down inside the tree itself to see what's down there. There's some spiders, just like there's spiders that live in trees. Here's our map for the interior. You can see the spider room and a mushroom room. Now, this is just the first level. And also down there is a little mushroom guy who you can befriend if you like. But there's also things to fight down here. The claw roaches are kind of like the Garthim from the Dark Crystal, kind of big bug-like armored beetle creatures who you can fight. And obviously they're there because someone brought them there. And then there's another level down there in that dungeon where there's some holes to the sky. That's areas 8 and 9, and there's another hole in area 13, so they'll have to get across there. And there's like a nest room, because that has to do with who's inside the tree. And they're going to find that the villains are actually draining the life force of the tree, which is why it's probably going to crash. And then hopefully the party can prevent that. So here's our main villain. You can see they're kind of vulture men, or again, another riff on the Dark Crystal where they're a little bit like the Skeksis. All these ones are more like vultures. Now, hopefully they save the Sky Tree and it doesn't crash. And if they do, there's some suggestions here for how do you extend the adventure. You know, how do you get a little more money for your, or bang for your buck, so to speak. So maybe there's dryads on the tree, or maybe there's harpies nesting up there. There might be a griffin up there who you would want to tame, perhaps. On the area map, there's a couple of other areas. There's Solog's Ruins, so you could easily have like a dungeon-style adventure in that ruins, and maybe some monsters have taken up residence there. And Lake Harmonia, which is to the south of Harveston, and it suggests maybe there's like a lizard man tribe where they're trying to encroach on the area, and the party might be hired to chase them away or scare them away or whatever. Oh, and you can also see another one of our wooden creatures here, Finna, who also lives there on the tree. Oh, and a few more suggestions. One for the Dragonwall Mountains and one for Old Delving, which is like an old mine there, and one of Sunday's nieces has disappeared. And then we got an illustration of another warrior here at the end. Now, the new monsters and scientists, or sentients rather, are in the back here. So this is kind of like the monster manual. If you remember, a lot of the old products would put the new monsters at the very back, so they were easy to find, or if you want to use them for a different adventure. And I get a few new monsters here. And most of the images are either ones that I drew or are copyright free from Pixabay. What you also get are pre-generated characters. So if you want to buy this like for a convention game or use it in a convention game, you're set. You can just print them out, or you can scan them and photocopy them, whatever you'd like to do, and hand them out to your players and go. And you even get 3 from some of our other products. You know, it's kind of a little extra preview. So you get your basics, your cleric, your dwarf, your elf, your fighter, halfling, magic user, thief. But you also get the Carven, who are wooden creatures. They're kind of like the botanicals. They're almost like a wooden robot sort of character. You get a halfling thief, you know, if you prefer to start to customize your races a little more. And a Wanderwood, who are kind of, well, not kind of, they're treants or ents, but these are smaller. And then the whole thing is OGL. So if you'd like to take a look at the Sky Tree, all the links are below for you. If you'd like to take a look at our other products, all the links are below that in the description below. And thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.